GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered. And that's MVS and Justin Watson with some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues. If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up. Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow, comma, semicolon, period, next sentence, to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man JRich.
Is that yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
and Jay
in the morning.
My God.
How good is he? How
so
good is
GMGP. Good morning, good people. I know that all of you thought we'd be off today, but with all the news, I thought maybe I'll roll solo today. And don't get me wrong, I was laughing in the comments. All you guys thought, Ray's gonna do this show. We waking up today, 9:31. It's the over. It's pretty funny that you guys thought we wouldn't do a show today. Leo said we're getting wake up. Jonas Wall saying upcoming. What's happening? Let's go, JR Enterprise. Tom Gar surprise. I didn't want to schedule it. I thought about it early this morning. I thought about it last night, and I said, you know what? I'm a man of the people. And so I am going to do Wake Up Solo today. We got lots and lots and lots to get to. And so hopefully we can get to all of it. We'll obviously talk about the fantasy implications for a lot of stuff, but I am here. I am for the people, and I hope you guys are all excited. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And this is where, if you are liking and subscribing and you got those notifications turned on, you get rewarded with a very special JRich solo episode today. So I hope you guys are having a good morning. I hope you guys understand. I was just making sure the production side was all good on the back end, but we should be good to go. And I am very, very excited for this show. But without further ado, because y'all know it's coming, let's get into it with some straight facts.
The biggest news in the world of sports. Covered and brought to you by one man, Jordan Richards. This is Straight Facts.
So obviously yesterday there was a ton of news, tons of stuff that we can get to. We will kick it off on a bit of a high note though, because TJ Watt received the highest paid extension for a non-quarterback in NFL history. $41 million per season, 3 years, $123 million total, $108 million guaranteed. And it's crazy because his brother JJ tweeted out, if this man asked me to pay for dinner one more time after he made only, I believe, $123 million for his entire 12-year career, TJ will be making that in the next 3 seasons. I mean, Adam Schefter put it right here. No player has recorded more sacks over the last 5 seasons than TJ Watt, who has 73.5 during that span. Now, the question is what does this mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because Ray and I did their schedule. We talked about they got Aaron Rodgers. Cool. They got DK Metcalf. Great. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. All right, cool. But how many wins is he really going to get? And it was hilarious because Matt Miller of ESPN tweeted out, all these moves you're making to at best go 9-8, at best, as it seems, to finish third in the AFC North. You got to pay him. Like, he was upset. He wanted to be paid. He deserved to be paid. And even in his latter years, I believe he's like 34, 35 now, TJ Watt is still making big money and has been extremely, extremely productive, obviously, over the last few seasons. And Stone said it in the chat here. Micah's got a big smile right now, and it's hilarious because we've seen this happen time and time again with the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. They just kind of refuse to pay these players when they should, when their rookie extensions are up or when their contracts are almost up. And what happens? Players get extended. Myles Garrett hits a new high. Jamar Chase breaks that record. TJ Watt comes around, breaks that record. And what's going to happen next? Micah Parsons is going to want to be the highest paid non-quarterback as well. But let's give credit to Jerry. He had no problem making Dak the highest paid quarterback in the league, most guarantees ever at that point when Dak got re-signed. So it's just a matter of not a matter of if, but when Micah ultimately signs. But yeah, as Stone said, he has to be a little bit excited to see a number like this come up. But we'll see what happens here. But let's get into the next set of news. Yeah, James said about Trey Hendrickson too. The Bengals are not going to be happy about this because Trey Hendrickson's price definitely just went up. Obviously, he's led the NFL in sacks the past 2 seasons with 17.5 both years. It'll be very interesting to see the fallout of this, but TJ Watt being the highest paid non-quarterback as it stands right now. Very, very interesting to see how that plays out. But let's get into some of the bigger news that we have that a lot of people I feel like we talked about this on Wednesday and Monday, but Rashee Rice, a Dallas County judge, just sentenced Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice to 5 years of probation and 30 days of jail time that can be served during those 5 years stemming from his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 offseason. None of us knew when this judgment would ultimately come about. I don't even think anyone knew that he was seeing a judge or potentially could be sentenced in the coming days or especially in the coming months. He was being drafted, obviously, very, very high in best ball, in fantasy leagues. A lot of people still thought, me included, that he would be the guy going forward for the Chiefs for as long as he's on the field. Now, the question goes from, in the NFL at least, they always reserve judgment for their suspensions, for their discipline, until the process has come about. And so now that has been done for Rashee Rice. Now the NFL can make their ruling on his pending potential suspension. Now, we don't know how long it's going to be. It could be 2 games, could be 3 games, could be more than that. I mean, the incident was pretty crazy when you see everything that happened. But now the question is, what are we doing with Rashee Rice? Because he's going to be suspended this season, almost guaranteed. Daniel Perry has, Chiefs believe 2 to 4 game suspension, are preparing for such, but others say 4 to 6 games. Yeah, this is a weird situation where with Rice, I wouldn't say there's much of a precedent for it, but yeah, somewhere in the range of probably 2 to 6 games seems more than reasonable. The NFL has been pretty firm with the suspensions recently. You know, in the past, it was, we'll give you 6 games, but you'll appeal and we'll knock it down to 3 or 4 for you. And that's just kind of how it always was. This feels like probably a 3-game suspension for Rice, but until we ultimately get the numbers, it's hard to say. And so that's where, if you're planning on drafting him, if you're planning on making a decision where you still want to draft Rashee Rice, like, you just have to weigh that risk a little bit in your mind and kind of figuring out how do you feel about him, because once he's on the field, he's going to be good. And I think the good part potentially is if he were suspended for, let's say, the first 3-4 games of the season, that's the time when we would have been not looking for him to be overly productive anyways. He's still coming off an injury and he's still returning from what we expect to be full potential and kind of the way that he's been practicing and what we've seen in some of the clips and camp highlights and stuff. But there's still that ramping up period. And if he's able to do that ramping up period off the field when he's suspended anyways, maybe there's a world where he can come back and ultimately be even better than before. Stone's saying Rice will get 4 games. Addison should get 2 times because he's a repeat offender. We'll see what happens with Addison. But yeah, he pleaded guilty, and we will get to that in a little bit. But what do you guys think about Rashee Rice and kind of where would you be drafting him? Because he's definitely going to fall in drafts right now. He's definitely not going to be where he's been in, like, second round, early third round at times. But would you take a shot on him? Because, I mean, ultimately, you want Rashee Rice for the playoff run. You want him when he's the best version of himself, when he's fully healthy. And you may not get that. But even still, like, if he's a 6th, 7th round pick, maybe you can stomach a 3 to 4 game suspension potentially. And that's where I don't want people to be confused and think that he's not going to be productive, because he will be when he's on the field. But I think, to Ray's credit, and he's been on Xavier Worthy pretty much the entire time, saying Xavier Worthy is going to be the guy who breaks out. He believes in Xavier Worthy as the dude who's ultimately going to break out in this offense. We saw it in the second half of the season. He's posted the Trinity scores, and we saw it obviously in the postseason, especially in that Super Bowl. But how is Rashee Rice going to then acclimate to this offense if he is suspended to start the season? Because we will get probably a heavy dose of Kelsey. We'll obviously get a lot of Worthy. We'll probably see some Hollywood as well. So is he able to then step in and assume that number 1 role that we all kind of projected for him in the offseason? So that'll be the interesting part. Alex is kind of saying it here. It gives Worthy an opportunity to establish himself as the one. And I think that's going to be the interesting part. Because if you're drafting or have a lot of a Xavier Worthy already, who to his credit, was fairly highly priced simply because of what he did in the postseason, the second half of the season, and obviously playing with Patrick Mahomes and this offense. But if you have Worthy, he has every opportunity to operate as the established one and be that for this Kansas City Chiefs team. And there is a world where he doesn't relinquish that role. Like, let's not forget that while, yes, in recent times, it's been a lot of Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice for that small, brief period, and obviously the second half of his rookie season when he really started to show a lot for this Chiefs team. But when they were really humming, it was over the middle with Kelce, and it was, a bit of underneath, but a lot over the top with Tyreek Hill. And that's really the role that Xavier Worthy can fill. When you go back to when the Chiefs were arguably at their best with Tyreek Hill, he was doing a lot of short area, quick twitch stuff, ins, digs, outs, not as much going deep. And people kind of thought that maybe his game would falling off, but they just changed his role. And it's a role that Xavier Worthy can play very, very well. It's a role that we talked about even last season with Hollywood Brown, and him potentially being an option for this team because he can do similar things very, very well. Yeah, Jonah's Wall saying, not counting out Hollywood at all. I'd want Royals over Hollywood. Jonah. Look, man. I like Jalen Royals, but when was the last time we saw a Chiefs rookie receiver do literally anything? And it's the man you're looking at right now on the screen. It's Rashee Rice. Like, he was the last one, and it took him a long time, and there was nobody there. So we will see. I see Jimbo is here in the building. Shout out Jimbo. He finally made it. There we go. But let's get into the next story in a second. But yeah, we're talking about the 5 years probation being a bit of an issue for Rashee Rice, to where if he messes up again, which he's been prone to do, then he could ultimately end up with a worse sentence. So we'll see what happens with him. Yeah, Alex is saying Andy Reid loves his vets. He certainly does. And Patrick Mahomes does too, right? Like, let's not forget, Patrick Mahomes is a very established quarterback. And while we don't necessarily view him as a diva per se, in the way we view Aaron Rodgers as a bit of a diva, he likes his guys. You need to be on time or he will definitely kind of shun you in the offense. We will see what happens there. But let's get to the next story because people are asking about it. And so I'm very interested in what happens with Jordan Addison. So Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison pled guilty Thursday to a lesser charge to resolve his 2024 DUI citation, which again subjects him to NFL discipline. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot over the past few days and weeks, because Ray and I have been all over this, is the second round picks and the guaranteed money. Jordan Addison, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, or he might have been first round pick. Per Spotrac, Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison stands to forfeit $88,000 per game missed due to suspension, and the full guarantee on his 2 years, $4.6 million remaining would void should ultimately anything happen to him. So that's where this becomes a bigger story, and in the context of everything we've been discussing as far as guaranteed versus non-guaranteed money, now you have a situation where Addison has his guarantees voided from his first round contract. And now we're also figuring out how long is he going to be suspended, and what does that mean for JJ McCarthy? What does that mean for TJ Hawkinson? I've always kind of been in the camp that Hawkinson's a little bit underrated right now, and he could definitely go much higher in drafts. Obviously, Jefferson is him. He's not going to really go anywhere in terms of his overall value, but not having Addison on the field hurts, and you're going to then look to players like a Jalen Nailor that found a role in the offense last season that can hopefully step up and provide some stuff, some production in the absence of Jordan Addison. Obviously, they're going to lean on that running game with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason a lot as well. But we'll see what ultimately happens here with this stuff, because there's just a lot that's going on with these suspensions and these pending judgments, whether it's Rice, whether it's Addison, and we'll see what else happens here. But yeah, I mean, Tom Gare saying pick up Jalen Nailor. Mers is saying JRich working on his day off. I'm here, Mers. I'm here for the people. Alex C is talking about Shamar Stewart not signing after watching this all play out. And yeah, that's the other big concern, right? Shamar Stewart is the lone player who has yet to sign from the first round, because they do have their contracts nearly guaranteed or fully guaranteed. And this is where that void language comes into play, right? Because this is a void that's going to happen should something ultimately end up happening to a Shamar Stewart. He was, working out at Texas A&M. They're saying he's not coming back. I honestly have no idea what's happening with Shamar Stewart. It's probably one of the most odd stories we've seen in this past few seasons, honestly, when you just talk about contract negotiations and all this kind of stuff. Keenan Allen will end up there. Our retired Ridley Truther. Our Ridley Truther, you need to come out of retirement, I think. because Ridley might be back. I've been seeing a lot of people on the timeline talking about Calvin Ridley, saying he ain't playing with Will Levis anymore. He's going to be great this year. We will see. We will see. But yeah, so Jordan Addison probably going to be suspended. We were talking, someone said in the chat earlier about repeat offender. How many games does he get? Again, it's hard to say. Somewhere probably in the realm of 3 to 6, much like Rashee Rice. It's a DUI, which isn't great. He has had a couple issues overall. And I don't think they're going to go too hard on him because he did plead guilty to the case and ultimately going to have the contract voided anyways. But not looking so good for Jordan Addison as it stands right now. But let's get into our big story, because everyone wants to talk about this. It's been a massive story. I've kind of downplayed it a little bit because the second round picks, are they going to sign? Are they going to not sign? Who does this ultimately hurt? When are they going to be in camp? Trey Harris is obviously the first one to not sign and didn't show up to training camp. And I'm sure you've all seen the clips. I didn't bother to pull them up because I know you just call me a homer, even though I'm not a Chargers fan. But camp has started. There's a lot more camps kicking off today. There was Baltimore kicked off a few days ago. And the 19th in particular tomorrow is when a lot of camps really kick off. So let's go to a tweet from Ari Mirov at My Sports Update. Second round picks are slowly starting to sign, but the X factor is believed to be number 40 overall with Saints quarterback Tyler Shough. Shough has a real shot to be the starter, and the Saints likely don't want their potential number 1 QB missing time. He's pushing for a fully guaranteed deal, and if he gets it, it could be a game changer for the unsigned picks ahead of him, numbers 35 through 39, who are believed to be waiting to see how this plays out, and the Saints don't report until July 22nd. So, obviously, we've been waiting to see what happens with all of these second-round picks. So I have it pulled up for you guys so we can kind of go through the list and we can look to see how this is all impacted. Now, one of the big signings that we did get yesterday after the fallout, so it started really with Alfred Collins here at 43. He was the one that crossed the line and signed for the 49ers to a mostly guaranteed contract. And then the dominoes started to kind of fall behind him. But there's still a lot of guys that remain unsigned right now. Now, we will get to them in a second. But starting off with Tyler Shough and how he is yet to sign, TJ Sanders of the Buffalo Bills has signed. We did get reports of that yesterday. And he signed to a mostly guaranteed contract, but not fully guaranteed. So basically, as it stands right now, picks 33 through 40, still hoping for guaranteed contracts. Then everyone from 41 down, very unlikely, probably not going to get guaranteed contracts, at least haven't to this point. So, you have a situation, especially for us in fantasy, Quinshon Judkins not going to get a fully guaranteed contract. At least I would not expect him to. Jonas Savaiinaea, the player we talked about just on Wednesday's show, very pivotal to the Miami Dolphins. They need him. Travion Henderson, kind of waiting to see what happens with Tyler Shough. Luther Burden, who is dealing with a soft tissue injury, but should be back in camp very, very soon. And obviously Tyler Shough as well. Nick Eamon-Warry, though, did sign. He signed a fully guaranteed contract. And so that's where now picks 33 through 40 should be going for fully guaranteed. But it's interesting because we're hoping for the Shough signing to be fully guaranteed if you're a fan of the players, at which point you probably get Burden, Henderson, Savaiinaea, and then ultimately we'll see what happens with Quinshon Judkins. But going into some of the more positive news, this is the area where you guys will be very excited. Trey Harris signed and in camp yesterday. Tate Ratledge, if you're a Lions fan, signed and will be in camp. The guard out of Georgia, who they desperately need. Jack Betch, who everybody has been touting all offseason, and we've been touting Deontay Thornton because he's the one actually practicing and in camp. You will see Jack Betch in camp this week. And most importantly, R.J. Harvey is in camp. He has signed, and he should be the starting running back for the Denver Broncos. So now, this is where it kind of stands as far as who's left. We have Elijah Arroyo. We'll see where he ultimately ends up. Terrence Ferguson and Mason Taylor are really the only other guys. Mason Taylor is the one that's kind of interesting because based off of how things are right now, he shouldn't get a guaranteed contract, but he should hopefully sign by the time everything comes around. We're waiting for Elijah Arroyo to see where he stands, but a lot of this stuff is heading the right direction. They stopped with the foolishness. They signed their contracts. They're going to be in camp, and we don't have to worry as much about him. Now, with the Trey Harris story, one of the other big pieces of news, and I'll just pull up the massive list that Schefter put out just yesterday, was Mike Williams retiring. Mike Williams went and signed for the Chargers. He was put on the PUP, and then a few days later, he ultimately retired. Which is crazy because we're waiting for Trey Harris to get to camp. We're seeing Chargers beat reporters posting clips. Justin Herbert throwing touchdowns left and right. Jimbo, no, Hendo has yet to sign. We're still waiting to see what happens here. Well, let me go back to that for a second here. So this area, Jimbo, from 33 through 40, hoping for those guaranteed contracts. Henderson right here at 38 in that mold. So we're still trying to wait and see what happens with these guys. And ultimately, it's going to come down to Tyler Shuck. It's looking like it could come down to the 22nd, but we'll see what happens with Shuck. And they're kind of waiting to see if he gets guarantees. We got guarantees at 33, 34, and 35. And we're waiting to see what happens with Shuck at 40. But going back to Mike Williams retiring, now you have a situation where this Chargers offense is going to be Ladd McConkey and probably Quentin Johnston or Trey Harris as that wide receiver too. A lot of people have been talking about why do I keep saying Quinton Judkins? Keep talking about Quentin Johnston being that wide receiver too. And we obviously saw how good he was at times last year. I mean, Tom's saying it top 5 offense. I kind of tend to agree. And maybe there's a world where Keenan Allen could also sign for the LA Chargers. But yeah, Mike Williams retired. Trey Harris is back in camp. And some of the other small news we got here, obviously the Terry McLaurin story we already talked about, but Von Miller opting to sign with the Commanders. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the Commanders apparently have the oldest roster in the NFL. We talked about the Rashee Rice news. We talked about Jordan Addison. We talked about Mike Williams, TJ Watt, and then Lloyd Howell. And that NFLPA story is very interesting. I didn't read the full story about that, but what's going to happen with that is basically like this guy who was head of the NFLPA was also a member of a private equity firm that was trying to purchase a stake in an NFL team. And so you have the NFL Players Association executive director also having a direct interest in the NFL from a business standpoint. Definitely just a massive conflict of interest. He got ultimately caught by Pablo Torre, and we're talking about that in the chat. But it's a pretty funny story. I think it was like 700 days he was ultimately the director over there. But back to this second round pick story and kind of what it could mean for these players, right? We hope they're ultimately all in camp. We obviously want to see them produce. We want to see them develop and establish themselves in their respective offenses. But when you talk about Judkins, we'll see with him. Henderson, I know everyone's really excited for. I think he's going to be fine and he will sign. But you have Burden, who we know is still a little bit injured. Tyler Shuck should be more than fine. Terrence Ferguson needs to sign. We'll see him. Elijah Arroyo, and then Trey Harris, who signed. Betches signed. Harvey signed. And that's pretty much it from there. But the good thing is they'll be in camp. We'll see lots of clips of them. We'll have lots of fun. But I think the widespread panic and this whole discussion as to kind of what's going to happen is just about over. While we haven't got all these guys in this middle range signed just yet, we should get it very, very soon, I think. Very, very soon. Dorf is asking in the chat, Harris or Jaden Higgins in Dynasty? I'm curious what the chat says about that one. I am definitely pro Trey Harris. I slightly lean the quarterback. I slightly lean the offense as a whole, and I'm just not the biggest fan of Jaden Higgins. And, you know, the discussion was, well, at least Jaden Higgins is in camp. He's going to be practicing with the team. He's ready to go, and we don't know how long these holds are going to hold out. But now, Trey Harris is in camp. Luther Burden should be in camp very soon. Trayvon Henderson should be in camp very, very soon, to where now it's almost level playing field, and we don't have this big discrepancy in talent and kind of what's going to happen for the preparation aspect and just being available for these NFL franchises. JR Enterprise is saying Higgins for me. Garrison saying Harris for me. Austin saying Harris as well. Look, I'm team Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris is going to be great. I'm very excited to see him in this offense. And, you know, while we thought maybe Mike Williams would help bring him along, kind of groom him a little bit to be the outside wide receiver for this Chargers team, I just like Trey Harris a lot. And he may have every opportunity now to be that starting X receiver for the LA Chargers. And I brought this up before, like, he is not Ladd McConkey, but in the same breath, like, we saw what the Chargers offense did with Ladd McConkey, a second round pick, who they drafted very high, who they prioritized in the draft, and they ultimately unleashed him in this offense. So I'm not too concerned about Trey Harris. I understand he has a bit of a limited skill set, but if they use him the same ways they use Quentin Johnston, I do think he will deliver much better results and ultimately production for the LA Chargers. JR is saying the Chargers offense is going to be mid anyways, efficient, but top 5 in run rate, and probably only lab matters at all for lineup. Could be wrong, but I doubt it. And that's true. Like, I don't disagree with you at all, JR. Like, they could be a little bit mid at times. They're definitely going to lean on the run. Najee was also put on the pup for anyone who missed that. So we'll see what happens with Omar and Hampton. But I have to imagine at this stage, people are going crazy for Omarion Hampton. His price is just going to skyrocket. We don't know what's going to happen with Najee Harris, but for everyone who said it's just a superficial injury, not going to be a big deal. Chargers are at camp, and we've got virtually no updates, just that he's on the NFI PUP, so the non-football injury PUP, and we don't know what's going to happen next for Najee Harris. All we know is that as it stands right now, we have Omarion Hampton, bell cow running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, in a Greg Roman expected to be run-first offense. That is a top 12 running back. Like, that is a top 12 running back for sure. Patrick asking if the PUP means misses 6 games. No, that doesn't mean that. So before the season, if you're basically on the off-season PUP, or in the case of Najee, it's the NFI, so the non-football injury list, it doesn't matter until we get to the regular season. So once we get to early September and then players go on the PUP, that's when they have to miss a minimum of 4 games. But during the offseason, players can be on the PUP, off the PUP. It really doesn't matter in terms of kind of where they're at from that perspective. They can be on the PUP, they can be off the PUP, and it's not too big of a deal. JR is saying, I still have no Hampton, 39% Trav. I just always took Trav over anyone but Genty. And yeah, that's the problem, is that we know. So Alex is saying, Charbo's saying Najee is already in team meetings and in the RB film room, which that's kind of been my position, honestly. Like, I understand people are like, let's get Hampton, let's make him an RB1. He's going to be so good. He's going to be the RB1 for this team. I just don't know if Najee's going to miss that much time. I just don't. Like, I'm concerned about him because we just have had so little updates, and we don't know, like, okay, you're in meetings, you're with the team, you're kind of doing everything you should be doing, but until you're on the field, we just don't know what we should expect from a player like Najee Harris. We know that when he's on the field and available, he's extremely productive, and can be great for this team as kind of that just lead back. He's not going to be the most efficient back, but he's going to help matriculate this offense down the field very, very well. And as a piece with Omarion Hampton, form a very dynamic backfield. But until he's kind of in pads on the field and able to operate the same way he did pre-injury, we have to assume that something, and obviously that something is the eye, is what's holding him back. And so hopefully it's not too bad for him, and he can ultimately come back and be ready for the season. But we'll see what happens with him. He is on the NFI list, but he can come off literally anytime. So anytime you see a player going on the PUP, at least right now for the off-season PUP, it doesn't matter at all. It's only if they put them on like the season-long injury PUP that is the problem. But yeah, that usually won't happen until later, and that's where some of the injuries we've heard, some of the reports we've heard, it tends to be very nondescript because these teams don't have to disclose injuries. They don't have to disclose what's going on with some of these players. But what else are you guys seeing? What else are you guys saying around here? I'm just glad that the people are here. The people are excited. Thought we'd do a little impromptu live, talk about some of the news that's been going on. Excited for everything that's happened at camp. Some of the news we've got. Obviously, the second round picks is massive for everybody. Y'all know I want to see the finger guns more than anything, but Big Shuck, he got to get signed first. He's got to get signed first. Alex is saying it's definitely not a good thing for Najee, but don't think we've seen the end of Najee at all. And then Francis is saying, Pro Football Doc worries about Najee's depth perception, long and short term. It could be affected. If affected, he could be done. And yeah, that's the biggest concern, right? Is when you have an issue with your eye, like we can say it's superficial, we can say it's not a big deal, but if he's not able to see the way that he used to see, he's not going to be effective at all. Like, he's just not. You can't be an NFL athlete and play at an NFL level without being able to see. Now, again, maybe Jameis Winston was disparaging that early in his career before he got LASIK, but he also threw 30 interceptions in a season. So ultimately, we'll see what happens there. Let's see what else the people are saying. Jimbo's saying, heard Dart hype. You buying that? I mean, Jimbo, I'm assuming you saw the video of Jackson Dart throwing that. Let's be honest, it was a dart to the Sea-Doo off the boat, but outside of that, we'll see what happens with Jackson Dart. I am excited for him, though. I think Jackson Dart's going to be great for the Giants at some point. I want to see how Brian Daboll, assuming he's the head coach, develops Jackson Dart for this Giants offense. I think the Giants can be significantly better this season, but we'll see what happens with them. Tom Gar's asking about the McLaurin deal. Yeah, we talked about that a bit on Wednesday. Does McLaurin deal get done? It would not. If not, would you tear down off Daniels to get Nick's Caleb May, or is Jaden just too good to sustain? That's a great question. Would you be scared about Daniels if he lost McLaurin? I wouldn't say I'd be worried about him from a value perspective, but definitely you have to assume that the production dip could be possible, right? Because while we like Debo as number 2, like, you still need a number 1. And, you talk about going down to May. There's rumors that the Patriots are, like, definitely making calls and making inquiries about what the availability is for Terry McLaurin. Now, would he want to go there? I assume if they drop the bag, which they've been doing pretty much all offseason, whether they've been successful or not is another conversation, but I would maybe consider it. Like, and it's really just because if you're getting a lot for me, it's Knicks. If you're going from Daniels to Knicks, that's the kind of move I'd be interested in. But you'd have to get probably a pretty significant add-on. But cashing out on Daniels, I don't mind at all, because we will see what happens with McLaurin. Hopefully he gets signed. I think he will get signed. Shout out Ricardo in the building. Wait, I thought JRich had today off. No, Ricardo, I'm here for you. I'm here for the people. Alex is also talking about Anthony Richardson. Oh, man. I know Ray's not here, and I'm sure he'll touch on it on Monday when he's back, but Rich, man, are you guys in? Are you guys in on Anthony Richardson? Sure, he's throwing with velocity, and he's going to be back at camp, but it still feels like, at least to me, that Daniel Jones is going to get the first crack to be the starter. And while I don't love Daniel Jones, I just don't think Daniel Jones is going to lose this job in camp. We may not think he's the best quarterback ever. We may not think that he's even deserving of being a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he's probably not going to lose out a camp battle to Anthony Richardson, because he's going to be on time. He's going to know the offense. He's going to be just fine. And A-Rich just has too many things to overcome right now. I'm not really in on A-Rich as it stands today. Jonah's saying Daniel's hype is so high right now. A lot of people have him as QB1 in Dynasty, and he hasn't proved it in year 2. Now, I will say, I'm not as worried about Daniels regressing in year 2. There's been a lot of discussion about him and CJ Stroud, because obviously CJ Stroud was, QB5, QB6 going into the 2025 or 2024 season and fell on his face a little bit. And now Daniels obviously was an all-world talent, was phenomenal. And because he was so good, they think, well, can he really be this good again? Does he really belong in that Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson type of tier? And can he outperform the likes of a Joe Burrow, who's expected to have a very, very good season this year? So we'll see what happens with him, but I'm not as concerned. I think losing McLaurin is a bit of an issue, and we'll see kind of how that ultimately plays out. But if he has McLaurin, he has Debo, and he's got Zach Ertz and then the complements of running backs they have offensively, I'm not worried about that team. And I think Daniels will show in his own right that he's more than deserving of being in that top selection. Garrison's asking about the bruise on my arm right here. I figured I would I'll look at that, covered up by the question. I'm glad you noticed that, Garrison. It means you're paying attention during the show. But I had to get a blood test. I think I mentioned this on the show the other day. I had to go to the doctors, do a little physical, and I had to get a blood test done, so I have a little bruise from that. But we're good, man. We're good. No worries. But what else is going on with the people? Boyan is saying more in on AR than Daniel Jones. If Jones wins the job over JRich, then it's curtains. But that's the problem, right? Like, that's the problem, is how many of you guys and girls in the chat think that if Daniel Jones wins the job, like, how many games would you give him? Like, how many games would you give Daniel Jones in terms of, like, when he could lose the job and ultimately lose out? Now, let me see here. I'm just pulling up the Colts schedule. Let's see how this goes. Little on-air producing here. Boom! Okay, so as it stands right now, this is the Colts schedule. So the Colts open up with Miami, Denver, Tennessee, LA. Like, these are very winnable games. They're probably not going to beat Miami, but they can be competitive. They're definitely not beating Denver. So 0-2 there. Tennessee, the Rams, they're probably going to lose to. Vegas? I probably wouldn't have them beating Vegas either, but maybe they could beat Vegas. It's a decent game. They have Arizona at home. They can win that game. The Chargers are not going to beat Tennessee again. Pittsburgh, Atlanta, like, maybe after the bye. But let's say you give Daniel Jones 10 games, right? Ricardo's saying 6.5 games. That's definitely possible. But let's say you go all the way to the bye, all the way week 11. Then this is the stretch that JRich has. He's got Kansas City, Houston, Jacksonville, which that's a fine game. Seattle and that Mike McDonald defense, that's not fun. San Francisco and Robert Saleh, no thank you. Jacksonville again and Houston again. So we're talking about maybe the Jacksonville games. Maybe the Jacksonville games are like winnable and competitive games. But outside of that, like, do you even want JRich in these matchups? Because let me tell you, I don't want JRich against Houston. I don't want him against Kansas City. I know people don't think Seattle's defense is very good, but Mike McDonald, year 2, Nick Eamon-Worry, who we just talked about, fully guaranteed contract to be the Kyle Hamilton of that Seattle defense. I got concerns, man. Give me the Daniel Jones stretch, even if he does get benched. I mean, he can have a good game against Miami. He can have a good game against Tennessee, both games. He can have a good game against Arizona. He can have a good game against Vegas, right? He can even stay competitive against the Chargers, whose defense isn't amazing. They'll have to do more offensively, and we'll see how they develop in year 2. But, like, it's basically just Denver, the Rams, and Pittsburgh, and maybe Atlanta, depending on what happens with Atlanta. But outside of that, all the games should be fairly competitive, fairly winnable. I'm not too concerned about Daniel Jones in those matchups. And if he does decent enough, 500, maybe one game below 500 in those 10 games, or maybe a 4-6 for Jones, he'll probably keep starting. Honestly. So I don't really have a whole lot of concerns there. Sean's saying the Jags will be better than Indy for sure. Potential wildcard team. Don't at me. Sean, you think the Jags wildcard? I mean, that's kind of bold. I wouldn't go that far just because Denver and the Chargers are probably going to be in the playoffs once again this season. But I like the take. I don't hate it. I'm not gonna kill you for it. But that's where, for me at least, the hype surrounding the Jags is interesting. Obviously, we love Liam Cohen. We don't love Trevor Lawrence, but I think Trevor Lawrence can develop with Cohen and be much better this season. But it's more than just offense, people. Like, the Jags should be much better offensively, and Liam Cohen's be a big part of that. But let's not forget how bad this defense was. They did make some signings. I believe they brought in Jordan Lewis to help once again for that defense. But let's not pretend like this was a good defense last year. And probably not going to be a good defense this year, because for everything Liam Cohen can bring for them offensively, he's not going to make them much better defensively, or at least I don't project him to make them much better defensively. Sean saying that division is weak. Yeah, it is weak. It's one of the worst divisions in football. And in my opinion, it's even worse in the NFC South. But that doesn't mean that the Jags are going to make the playoffs. Like, you still have to win the division or make the wild card. And let me tell you, Cincinnati has a better shot at the wild card. Pittsburgh has a better shot at the wild card, in my opinion. And then, of course, you still have Denver, KC, or the Chargers. 2 of those 3 teams will be in wild card contention. So just because the division's weak doesn't mean it's going to be fun for them. Actually, since we're here anyways, let's do a little record test for the Jacksonville Jaguars just to see where they're at. So they open up the season here. Let me pull that up. They open up the season here with the Carolina Panthers. What do y'all think? Carolina, can they beat the Carolina Panthers in Bryce Young? This game is at home. I personally do not think so. I think Carolina's going to beat them. I think Carolina's a better team, but we'll see. That one is close, and probably they can get a win there. Cincinnati, no way. They're not beating Cincinnati, especially on the road. Houston, no chance. I don't even remember the last time they beat Houston. It's been a long time. San Francisco on the road, absolutely not. Kansas City, absolutely not. So right now, they're 1-4 at best. At best, we have the Jags at 1-4. Seattle at home, because Seattle has to travel, we will give them the win there. Versus Los Angeles, the Rams, no way. I'm taking the Rams all day, every day. So right now, through 7 weeks, going into the bye, we have them at 2-5. 2-5. Eli's saying in the chat, Jags might start 1-6, and they very well could. We will give them 2 wins. We'll give them the Seattle win. We'll give them the Carolina win. But every other game on there should be a loss. So let's get into the second half of the schedule from week 9 onward. At Vegas, winnable game. Not terrible, but I'm probably giving Vegas the edge there. Houston again, that one's in Houston. No, thank you. They do have a home game against the Chargers. I'm giving the Chargers that game, obviously. At Arizona, they probably lose that game as well. So, I mean, they probably go 1-3 out of the bye at best. So then at that point, they're 3-8 going into this Tennessee game, which they probably win. 4-8. Indy, 5-8. Jets, 6-8. Denver, they're going to lose too. So 6 and I mean, maybe they could get to 8-9. Indy, maybe they get to 8-9. Garrison said a little while ago, as I'm kind of going through it, maybe they can get to 8 wins, but more than that, they probably got to split with Houston. And I just don't see it happening. Like, I just don't see it happening, honestly. It's going to be tough. Patrick saying it's the September Bengals. Jags could upset. And while that is certainly true, I think that, I don't know if anyone's watched quarterback yet. Like, I think that Joe is going to be even more pissed off than he was last season. He seemed pretty pissed that whole year as to what was going on and how the defense just wasn't able to lift them up at all. Very rarely were they able to, at least. Scribbles is saying, I think the Jags win 8 to 9 games. Big improvement. And that's fair. Like, it is a big improvement for them. And they should be a much improved team. But let's not forget, like, Tennessee could win some games too. And while we don't expect them to win a lot of games, they could be a team that splits with Jacksonville. Because the one thing that I will give Tennessee credit for is they actually do have a pretty good defense. They did lose some key pieces defensively. But even with that, if Cam Ward is decent, I do think there's a pretty good chance that you could see a split with Tennessee and the Jaguars. So let's just keep that in mind as well to see kind of what happens there, because I do think Tennessee can be a little bit better. And let's be honest, they could split with Indy as well. Indy's not very good. Like, they're not a very good team. I don't think they're very good at all. But to think that the Jags are so much better than them, they're just going to sweep them? Nah, man. Like, we're all better than that. Like, we are all so much better than that. Yeah, Sean's saying Joe is locked in. He is locked in. Yeah, the Bengals defense is still so bad. Shamar Stewart, we'll see what happens with him. Do not expect him to be in camp, at least anytime soon as it stands. And I'm just not sure what we're going to see from this team. And Scribble's saying, yeah, he says he feels bad for Joe Burrow. But this is like literally and this is where I feel like I've said on this show a couple times, Joe Burrow is kind of going down that Drew Brees path. And for everyone, who doesn't remember Drew Brees or wasn't as tapped into the Saints back then, like, Drew Brees was throwing for 4,800, 5,000 yards, like, season after season after season. And for whatever reason, this team would just be like 8-8, 9-7, maybe make the playoffs, barely limp in. And just couldn't do anything because defensively for years, they were an absolute mess. Garrison saying Burrow makes $50 million a year. I don't feel bad for him. I understand the money side, but we have to feel a little bad for Joe Burrow because, like, he's doing his job, and we can't say he's not doing his job. He's a great ambassador for the team. He's obviously a phenomenal player, but to say that you can't feel bad for him because ultimately he can only play one side of the ball, he's not quite that Travis Hunter level impact player. I do think he's going to be great this year, though. I'm excited for Joe. I am excited for Joe. Sean asked my favorite part of quarterback season 2. I'm trying to think of what the best part was. Honestly, probably the trick play stuff when they did all the trick play stuff with the fumble where they saw it on tape. Like that stuff is really cool. That's the kind of stuff that you only get in these types of only in these back type of shows. You see Ray G in the chat. Shout out to Ray. Bigger shout out though to his wife Sheeta Baddis 1908. They are in the building. They are ready for SmackDown. They are excited. But don't worry, Ray. I'm holding down the show with all the news. I decided that we'd have a lot of fun here. Talk about some random stuff. We went through all the key news. Ray, is there anything that you have on your mind since you are here and you are tuning into the show? You're a little late. Let's be honest. You're a little late. But I appreciate that you both decided to tune in and check out this great show. We got Jimbo, of course, talking about how I stole the keys. Oh, my God. Sean, chill, bro. Like, relax. Yeah, Goff's wife was definitely a star of the show. Absolutely. She's wonderful. But, yeah, from the football side of things, she was not a big part of the story. But Milmers, no slack here, right? I'm never picking up Ray's slack. Ray always does a phenomenal job, works hard. He was entitled to his day off, and I decided with all the news that we talk about some of the stuff. Obviously, the second round pick stuff was a lot of fun, and just going through that. But very, very excited for what's going on in the NFL right now. So excited for clip season. Everyone's here. Good morning. Yep, we're doing fun. Austin's here in the building. Been here from the very beginning. I just like being here, man. It's exciting for me. And obviously, Ray hosts a stream every show. So I wanted to just, do my own thing and make sure I'm still prepared. Because there's always times where, maybe he can't do it, can't make it. So it's good for me to practice hosting as well. Yeah, I know, you're right. I didn't say it off the rip. But yeah, the parents are here. So, we just we gotta chill. It may be Freaky Friday. But the parents are here, so we got to keep it right. But I am excited, man. It's been a very, very fun time. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else though that we had to hit on. I was going through Schefter's stuff, the NFLPA stuff. Like I don't really know if we had to pay much attention to that. It's a conflict of interest thing. Like that's the big issue. Trey Smith, Sauce, yeah, Jawan Jennings. I mean, I don't think Jennings is gonna get traded anyways, so we'll see what happens there. Addison, we talked about Rashee, Williams, Watts, big deal. It's a crazy time in the NFL right now, and I hope we only get more and more news. But let's just pull up some stuff here because we do got some time. So, look at that. Let me just pull that up because I know everyone's excited for this. Big Trey Harris signing. Let's get to work. 9:30 p.m. last night, Trey Harris signed. Do all the rookies sign this weekend? Well, that's the interesting thing, Ray. So since you kind of missed it, we'll go back because I know that people missed it. But Ari talked about the situation with Tyler Shuck, right? And whether we're going to get his guaranteed contract or not, which would then subsequently set somewhat of a precedent for picks 35 through 39. And so we're waiting to see what happens with Shuck, but that's not going to happen until July 22nd. So as it stands right now, this is what we're looking at for the contracts. So you have TJ Sanders who signed. We all kind of saw that news. We're waiting for Mason Taylor, and everyone from TJ Sanders and below, so 41 onward, should be non-fully guaranteed contracts signing at some point. Now, because Shuck isn't slated to be at training camp until the 22nd, I don't know if we see all the rookies sign this weekend because we have Burden, Henderson, Sevaniah, Judkins still waiting to see what happens with Tyler Shuck at 40. And obviously Judkins, we don't know what happens with him, but everyone else should get fully guaranteed contracts if Tyler Shuck does, and the dominoes will fall shortly after that. Because as we saw, once Alfred Collins signed to a non-guaranteed contract, we started to see tons of signings roll in. Tate Ratledge is a big one. Betch has signed, so we'll see him in camp. Harvey, Trey Amos is big. Shamar Turner, Omar Norman Lott, Andrew Makuba, like all these guys, we're waiting to see kind of find out when they're going to sign, but a big crop of guys all did sign in the last couple of days. And we'll see what happens here with kind of this guaranteed stuff. Shuck is kind of the big domino to fall, and ultimately what happens after that. I see Garrison, what were you doing last night? Were you out late? Were you out late last night? You know, you're a little hungover, you're having some fun. That's good, man. That's good. K Fitz. Oh man. K Fitz. Can Keambert Lambert Smith make a jump in the Chargers with Big Mike retiring? Look, man, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't. But people already don't like this Chargers offense. Like, they already say it's mid. They don't think it's going to be very good. Justin Herbert's not that good. It's Ladd McConkey's show. I mean, maybe. Maybe he can make some plays. But no, I do not expect... Yeah, Ray's a big KLS fan. Big KLS fan. But no, I do not expect him to do much of anything, at least as it stands right now. Maybe in the Hall of Fame game, sure, Patrick. I could see it in the Hall of Fame game. Maybe we see a little something. I'm trying to see if I can find the video of him, because Herbert threw him an absolute rope in practice yesterday. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I would not expect it to be, ooh, what's this one? Oh yeah, this is the one that everyone was talking about from yesterday. So let's show this one on the screen. The absolute dime pieces from Justin Herbert into the corner. This one I believe was to, that one was to KLS. It was someone else. But yeah, Herbert's diming guys up in practice. Everyone should be very, very excited for what we see from this Chargers offense. It's going to be very good. Paul is asking in the chat. Let me just switch the screen real fast. Better long-term pick, dynasty, half-point PPR, Harvey or Caleb Johnson? I think I'm going to go Caleb Johnson. I like RJ Harvey. He's a good player. He's going to be great for this offense. But I do think there's a world where he's a little bit overvalued because of the early production, and we're dismissing what Caleb Johnson could be long-term for the Steelers. Like, he still plays in a very good run-first offense. It's just a matter of when he ultimately becomes the starter for this Chargers team. Ray, there wasn't a Rager sighting. Rager is not doing anything. It still is probably one of the worst takes we got. But yeah, Rager, he's doing a little something out there. He's doing a little something out there, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up just quite yet for Jalen Rager. Patrick saying he could be this year's Vele. Maybe. I'm not going to go as far with Vele. I do like Vele this year a lot, but at least for me, I'm going to go with Caleb Johnson over RJ Harvey for long term, especially in half PPR. Like, people like the receiving upside of Harvey, but I think in a half PPR, you lean on the rushing upside. And when Caleb Johnson becomes the starting running back for the Steelers, he will be very, very, very good. Jonah's saying, it feels like it's been so long since the last football season. So much crap floating in the news. Can't wait till college and NFL gets back. Yes, sir. I am very, very excited for what we're going to get this NFL season. Obviously, we've documented so much of it so far, and there's a lot still to go. Training camp, hype videos, preseason, a lot of stuff to still go up. And yeah, Jimbo's saying as well, half point, pick Caleb. In a full point, you can definitely go RJ Harvey there. Where would you take Quinshon in a rookie draft? Paul's asking. I would take him... I'd say probably like 109, 110-ish, somewhere around there. Like right around where you would take Emeka Egbuka, I think is a very fair range, potentially for a Judkins. Again, it's not that I want to take him there, but if I really need a running back and he's kind of slipping a little bit and his value is going to fall, but I don't think we should be too scared and be willing to take the risk. Like, he's probably not a first rounder if you don't want to take that risk, but after that, like, I just don't care. Like, I'm not drafting Cam Scadaboo over him. I'm not drafting Dylan Sampson over him. I think if you want to be bold, Ray just said it, 110 to 202. If it's past 202, you have to take the shot. Like, you have to take the shot. 49 days, 48 days, and what do you know? Just in no time, it's going to be all over, and the NFL season will be here. Garrison saying 7 to 10. Wow, 7 to 10 is absolutely bold, and I like it. If Rager balls out enjoying practices, then I'll take notice. Not until then. I'm with you, Stone. And even if he does, like, we're talking about a maybe 20 target player at best. Maybe. Alex is saying, I don't know, man, Darius guys 2.0 is a little scary for me. And that's kind of where, like, people were in the comments from last show talking about the differences between the situations. We brought up Darius Geis and kind of his situation where it just never really got better for Geis. And he had injuries too, and that was a part of it. But off the field, it just never really improved for Geis. We brought up Kareem Hunt and kind of his situation and how he was cut because he lied to the team. And even with that, his career just never really got to the peaks that we should have seen from Kareem Hunt prior to the incident. Ray saying 20 total Rager targets. Woof. That's probably too many for Jalen Rager in this offense, because with the playmakers they have, and the real question is for the chat, who do you think does more with 20 targets? Would you take Jalen Rager or would you take Quentin Johnston as your 20 target exclusive deep threat on this Chargers team? Because I think I would still take Quentin Johnston, even with Rager showing out in some of this camp footage. Ethan saying, as a Chargers fan, Rager got more than enough run last season for me to be terrified of him. A lot of people are saying QJ. Ray's asking about MLB. Dude, I'm fucking fired up for baseball. Like, baseball being back is huge. Past 2 days have been very, very boring. But closing out strong is tough, man. Like, I will say, I know you guys don't watch baseball. I know we're getting, towards the end of the show anyways, but I think this season could be one of the best postseasons in baseball we've seen. Maybe not in a long time, because there have been some very good ones over the years, but I do think that we're in line for a really, really good postseason, because some of the really good games we've had with very good teams facing off against each other during the season have been like electric, so good. And so I think when the postseason finally comes around for baseball, I hope you guys tune in, because while yes, football will be on and college and all that kind of stuff, like, it's going to be really, really exciting. And I think all the games are going to be very, very good. JR is saying both in Jalen Rager and Quinn Johnson gonna have less than 10% catch rate on dimes, all bums. KLS to Neptune, JR is also saying, and Jimbo is excited for baseball. Jimbo, I know you're excited for your Yankees, but look, man, those Red Sox are coming. Just know that the Red Sox are coming. Blue Jays and Giants series starts tonight. Should be a good one. Go Jays. I rate it. I like the Jays. Jays have been very good this year. Shout out from Mexico, I assume. Alan, you giving us a shout out from Mexico? You didn't say. You just threw the Mexican flag in there, and so I'm only assuming you are in Mexico. Someone's talking about the Tigers. They do need to make a trade for a reliever. And Jonas saying, I want to watch more baseball. Watch the Shohei legend in the making. Yeah, Shohei is unbelievable. Unbelievable. But what other questions do you guys have before we get out of here? I will happily take more questions. I'm always down to just hang out. And that's why I wanted to do this. Like, we ran through the news. For anyone who is tuning in late, let me see if I still have it up here. I think I missed it because I went off of Schefter's tweet. But we hit on the Rashee Rice news and Jordan Addison. So feel free to go back and check that out if you missed it. But yeah, we talked about TJ Watt, talked about Mike Williams retiring, and how Trey Harris to the absolute moon. Von Miller signing with the Commanders to make their pass rush hopefully a little bit better. Rashee Rice, 30 days of jail time and 5 years of probation. What it means for him, probably a 3 to 6 game suspension potentially. Jordan Addison pleading guilty to his DUI case from 2024. And that is just about it. Whoa! We got South Korea in the building. Jamal, let's go, man. Shout out to you. Paul's saying no one's talking about the S2 test this offseason. Yeah, we haven't had anything from the S2 test. Alan, you are late, but you are here, my friend. So thank you for tuning in. But that is about it from me. Ray, of course, is extremely excited. Xavier Worthy to the absolute moon. And everyone is very, very excited for that. Yeah, Stone, the NFLPA saga is nuts, and it is going to be an interesting story to see what happens there. Ray's asking if anyone's worried about probation for Rashee Rice. I don't have a lot of Rice, so I'm not too concerned. But yeah, it is a problem. It's a little too long. It's a little too long to be on probation. And if he does have something happens, he can't get in trouble any longer. But that is it for the show today. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for everybody who tuned in for my impromptu live, talking about the news, talking about the contracts, talking about the second round picks, and everything in between. Thank you, as always, for tapping in. Make sure you like and subscribe for all of our future content. I will be off next week, but don't worry. For everyone who loves Ray G and wants those Ray G solo shows, they will be hot and heavy Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, all of next week. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like and subscribe to the content, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks. I'm out. Peace.